The great hall of the Galactic Confederation buzzed with the voices of 24 different species. Light from 3 suns poured through the crystal dome ceiling, casting colorful patterns across the polished stone floor. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered in small groups, their translator devices humming softly as they converted alien sounds into understandable speech. Krelxa adjusted her breathing apparatus and moved through the crowd. Her blue scales shimmered as she walked. As a Novali, she needed extra moisture in the air she breathed. Most species found the conference room uncomfortably dry, but nobody complained. This was how diplomacy worked. Everyone suffered a little discomfort for the greater good. "Ambassador Krelxa, a pleasure to see you again," called a tall, thin being with gray skin and 4 arms. It was Ambassador Zeal of the Vexilians. "The pleasure is mine," Krelxa replied, touching her chest in the traditional greeting. "I trust your journey was peaceful?" "As peaceful as space travel can be these days," Zeal said. "Have you heard? The outer systems are reporting strange energy signatures. Some say it could be the return of the swarm." Krelxa felt her neck frills flatten with concern. The swarm was bad news, a hive mind species that consumed everything in its path, but they hadn't been seen in generations. "Let's not spread fear without facts," she said. "The conference begins soon. Perhaps Admiral Tazveran will have more information." As they spoke, Krelxa noticed a figure she didn't recognize. He was shorter than most beings present, with pale skin and dark hair. He wore simple clothes, not the elaborate robes most diplomats preferred. He seemed to be listening to many conversations at once, his eyes sharp and observant. "Who is that?" she asked Zeal. The Vexilian looked where she indicated. "Ah, that's William Parker. He represents some minor trading coalition from the outer systems. Not very important. Why do you ask?" "No reason," Krelxa said, but she kept watching the man. There was something unusual about him, the way he moved perhaps, or how he seemed perfectly comfortable in his body despite the varied gravity settings of the conference hall. Later, as the formal meetings ended for the day, Krelxa returned to her quarters. She opened a hidden panel in her travel case and took out her most prized possessions, artifacts that supposedly belonged to humans. Humans. The word itself seemed to stir something in the air. They were creatures of legend, a species that had once traveled among the stars before vanishing centuries ago. Most considered them myths, stories told to young ones about beings who could adapt to almost any environment, who thought in ways no other species could predict. Krelxa had been collecting these artifacts for years, a small device with a cracked screen that supposedly stored human music, a piece of fabric with faded letters spelling NASA, a small, flat circle of metal with the profile of a human face stamped on it. She was examining her collection when her door chimed. "Enter," she called. The door slid open to reveal William Parker, the human she had noticed earlier. "Ambassador Krelxa," he said with a small bow. "I hope I'm not disturbing you. I heard you might be willing to show me your collection." Krelxa felt her heart beat faster. "My collection?" "Of human artifacts," Parker said with a smile. "Word gets around at these conferences." She hesitated, but then gestured for him to enter. There was something about this stranger that made her trust him. "Most believe humans never existed," she said as she displayed her treasures. "Or if they did, the stories about them are greatly exaggerated." Parker picked up the metal circle, what humans had once called a coin, and turned it over in his fingers. "And what do you believe?" he asked. "I believe there must be truth behind such persistent legends," Krelxa answered. "No story survives for centuries without some core of reality." Parker nodded, his eyes never leaving the coin. "A wise perspective. And what do the legends say about humans?" "That they were incredibly adaptable, that they could survive in almost any environment, that they thought in ways that made them either brilliant innovators or terrifying warriors." She paused. "Some say they fought a terrible war and destroyed themselves. Others believe they simply left our part of the galaxy." Parker placed the coin back among her collection. "Interesting theories. You seem very curious about human legends for someone from a minor trading coalition, Krelsa observed. Parker's smile widened. Everyone has their hobbies. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent chime from the central communication system. Admiral Tazaveran's voice echoed through the room. All representatives to the main conference hall immediately. This is not a drill. Krelsa and Parker exchanged glances before hurrying to the hall. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Admiral Tazaveran, a massive being with armored skin and multiple eye stalks, stood at the center platform. Our long-range sensors have detected an unknown fleet approaching Confederation space sky, the Admiral announced without preamble. They come from an unmapped sector beyond the void expanse. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The void expanse was a vast area of space considered impossible to navigate due to its strange radiation and unstable wormholes. "How many ships?" asked a representative from the silicon-based Quartz Collective. "Over 50 vessels that we can detect," Tazaveran replied. "Unknown configuration. Unknown propulsion signatures. They do not match any known species in our database." The room erupted in concerned voices. 50 ships was a massive fleet. The Confederation itself could barely muster 30 combat-ready vessels on short notice. "They will reach our border in 3 standard days," the Admiral continued. "I am ordering our defense fleet to intercept." As the announcement concluded, Krelsa noticed that Parker stood perfectly still among the panicked diplomats. His face showed no fear, only intense concentration. "You don't seem worried," she said to him. Parker glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "Should I be? 50 unknown ships approaching from uncharted space? Yes, I think concern is appropriate." "Perhaps," he said, "or perhaps this is just the beginning of a new chapter for the Confederation." Before she could ask what he meant, Communications Officer Liripan rushed to the Admiral's side. The slender, bird-like alien was responsible for all long-range communications. "Admiral," Liripan said, her voice high with excitement, "we've intercepted fragmented transmissions from the approaching fleet. It's a language unlike anything in our records." The main display screen activated, showing strange symbols and audio waveforms. Parker stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the screen. "I can help with that," he said, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room. Every eye turned to him. "And how could you possibly help?" Admiral Tazaveran demanded. Parker smiled. "Because I know exactly who's coming." He pointed to the screen. "That's not an unknown language. It's English. Those ships are from Earth." The word hung in the air like a physical thing. "Humans," Krelsa whispered. "They're real." Silence filled the great hall. Every diplomat, officer, and aide stared at William Parker, the man who had just claimed to recognize a language no one in the Confederation had heard before. Admiral Tazaveran was the first to recover. His eye stalk swiveled toward Parker, focusing with military precision. "You expect us to believe that you can identify this transmission? That you know about humans?" The Admiral spoke the last word like it might burn his mouth. "I don't expect you to believe anything without proof," Parker said calmly. He pointed to the screen displaying the intercepted message. "May I?" After a moment of hesitation, the Admiral nodded. Parker walked to the control panel and began pressing buttons with practiced ease. The symbols on the screen rearranged themselves. "The message is fragmented because your systems don't recognize the compression algorithm," he explained. "But the basic content is clear. It's a standard first contact protocol. They're announcing their peaceful intentions and requesting permission to enter Confederation space." "This is ridiculous," said a tall Zorathi representative. Supreme Commander Vexus Thor stood nearly twice as tall as Parker, his scaled skin glowing faintly in the room's light. "Humans are myths, stories to frighten children." Parker turned to face the gathered representatives. "I understand your skepticism, but consider this. If I can decode this message, what does that tell you?" Krelsa stepped forward, her blue scales shimmering under the lights. It means you either created a very elaborate hoax or... She couldn't finish the sentence. The implications were too enormous. Or I have knowledge no outsider should possess. Parker completed her thought. The doors to the hall slid open and a woman entered. She had dark skin, short hair, and wore a simple but well-made uniform with an unfamiliar insignia. She walked directly to Parker's side. "I see you've started without me," she said. Parker grinned. Things developed quickly. "Everyone, this is Suze Blackwell, official representative of the Earth Alliance." The room erupted in voices. Some shouted questions, others expressed disbelief, and a few simply stared in stunned silence. Admiral Tazveran raised all four of his arms, calling for order. "Silence! Let us hear what these people have to say." Blackwell stepped forward. "Thank you, Admiral. I understand this comes as a shock. Humans have been absent from this region of space for over 300 years. Many of your cultures remember us only as legends." "If you're truly human," said a skeptical voice from the crowd, "why have you hidden yourselves all this time? Why reveal yourselves now?" "We never intended to remain hidden forever," Blackwell explained. "After the Collapse War, our civilization needed time to rebuild. We retreated to a region of space beyond the void expanse, where we could recover without interference." "The Collapse War?" Krelksa asked, fascinated. "Our records contain only fragments about such a conflict." "It nearly destroyed us," Parker said quietly, "and could have destabilized this entire sector of the galaxy." Admiral Tazveran's patience was wearing thin. "This is all very interesting, but it doesn't explain why a fleet of 50 ships is approaching our space." "The fleet carries our diplomatic corps and scientific teams," Blackwell said. "For decades we've been observing the Confederation from afar, sending agents like Parker to learn about your cultures and political structures. Now we believe it's time for formal contact." "Spies," Vexthor hissed. "You've been infiltrating our worlds, learning our weaknesses." "Observers," Parker corrected. "And yes, we wanted to understand the current galactic situation before making our presence known. Wouldn't you do the same if you were returning to a changed political landscape after centuries away?" This silenced Vexthor, though his eyes still burned with suspicion. Liripan, the communications officer, spoke up. "The lead ship is requesting direct communication with the Confederation Council. They identify themselves as the Earth vessel Liberty Dawn." "Put them through," the Admiral ordered after a moment's consideration. The main screen flickered, and the image of a human man appeared. He wore a dark uniform with silver insignia on the shoulders. His face was weathered, but his eyes were clear and direct. "This is Admiral Gregory Holland of the Earth Alliance flagship Liberty Dawn," he said. "On behalf of humanity, I extend greetings to the Galactic Confederation." Admiral Tazveran straightened to his full impressive height. "This is Admiral Tazveran of the Confederation Defense Force. Your approach has caused considerable concern among our people." "We apologize for any alarm," Holland replied. "Our intentions are peaceful. We request permission to send a small delegation to continue diplomatic discussions face to face." Before Tazveran could respond, the Confederation High Counselor, a small ancient being with skin like polished wood, stepped forward. "This is a historic moment," the counselor said, voice crackling with age. "One that requires careful consideration. Admiral Holland, would you agree to bring only a small delegation to our meeting station at Harmonious Prime? The rest of your fleet must remain at the border." Holland nodded. "Agreed. We will arrive with 3 ships only. The rest of our fleet will hold position." After the communication ended, the room once again filled with excited voices. Krelksa made her way to Parker, or whatever his real name was. "You deceived us," she said, but there was more curiosity than anger in her voice. "I observed," he corrected gently, "and I enjoyed our conversations about human artifacts. Your collection is quite impressive, especially considering you had no confirmation we even existed." The Confederation representatives split into groups, some excited by the prospect of meeting legendary humans, others deeply concerned about the implications of their return. The council chamber will convene in 1 hour to prepare for the human delegation, announced an aide. As the crowd dispersed, Vexthor approached Parker and Blackwell. The Zorathi towered over them, his scaled face unreadable. Our ancestors left warnings about your kind, he said quietly. About your unpredictability, your violence, your dangerous ideas that spread like diseases. History is often written by those who fear what they don't understand, Blackwell replied evenly. We shall see, Vexthor said. The galaxy has been at peace for generations. Your return may change that. With those words, he turned and left. Krelixa watched him go, then turned to Parker. Not everyone fears your return. Some of us have been waiting a very long time to meet humans. Parker smiled. And we've been waiting to properly introduce ourselves. The real story of humanity is about to begin. The arrival of the human ships created quite a scene at Harmonious Prime. 3 vessels approached the space station, sleek and silver against the blackness of space. The largest ship, the Liberty Dawn, moved with a grace that seemed impossible for its size. Crowds gathered at every viewport to catch a glimpse of the legendary humans. Security personnel struggled to maintain order as diplomats, station workers, and visitors pushed forward. Krelixa stood in the official welcoming area, alongside other Confederation representatives. Her heart beat rapidly with excitement. After years of collecting artifacts and studying fragmented stories, she would finally meet real humans. Not just observers like Parker, but official representatives of Earth. They certainly know how to make an entrance, muttered Admiral Tazvaran, beside her. The Admiral had positioned defense ships at strategic locations around the station, despite assurances that the humans came in peace. The docking bay doors opened with a soft hiss. A group of 7 humans walked through. They wore matching dark blue uniforms with different colored stripes and insignia that presumably indicated rank or role. At the front walked a tall man with gray hair and confident posture, Admiral Holland from the video transmission. Beside him was a woman with short blonde hair and intelligent eyes. The others followed a few steps behind. Welcome to Harmonious Prime, said the Confederation High Counselor stepping forward. I am High Counselor Nem, and on behalf of the Galactic Confederation I extend greetings to the people of Earth. Admiral Holland bowed slightly. Thank you, High Counselor. I am Admiral Gregory Holland, and this is Ambassador Catherine Winters. We are honored by your welcome. The formal introductions continued as each human delegate was presented. Alan Martinez, Chief Engineer, Olivia Russell, Communications Specialist, and others whose roles and titles Krelixa didn't catch because she was too busy observing everything about them. They looked so ordinary. After centuries of legends describing humans as either godlike beings or terrifying monsters, the reality was surprisingly normal. They had 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. They varied in skin color, height, and build, but the differences seemed minor compared to the variations between Confederation species. Yet there was something in their eyes, in how they carried themselves. A confidence that bordered on arrogance. A curiosity that seemed to assess everything and everyone. The formal reception moved to the grand meeting hall. Servants brought food and drink suitable for all species present. Conversation flowed as initial tensions eased. Krelixa found herself near the human called Olivia Russell. The woman smiled at her. You're Ambassador Krelixa, correct? William told me about your collection of human artifacts. Yes, Krelixa replied, surprised. He mentioned me. He said you had genuine interest in human history, not just fear or skepticism. Russell took a sip from her glass. That's refreshing. I've studied what little information we have about humans for many years, Krelixa admitted, but I have so many questions. I'm sure you do, and we have questions too. Perhaps we can help each other find answers. Across the room, Ambassador Winters was engaged in serious conversation with the High Counselor and other senior Confederation officials. Her voice carried clearly. Yes, we have established what we call the Earth Alliance with several species beyond the void expanse. No, they are not currently members of the Confederation. They have their own histories and reasons for remaining independent. This news created a stir. The Confederation had always considered itself the sole major power in the galaxy. The idea of another significant political entity challenged that assumption. "And how large is this alliance?" asked a Vexilian representative. "We encompass over 200 star systems," Ambassador Winters replied calmly. "Though not all are heavily populated." The number sent whispers through the crowd. The Confederation itself controlled about 500 systems, but it had taken them centuries to expand to that size. Admiral Holland joined the conversation. "We've spent generations rebuilding and exploring in the opposite direction from Confederation space. We've encountered many species unknown to you, just as you've discovered civilizations unknown to us. And now you return," said Commander Vexthor, his voice cold. "Why? What do you want from the Confederation?" "Peaceful coexistence," Winters answered. "Trade, cultural exchange, the same things most civilized societies want from their neighbors." Engineer Martinez stepped forward with a small device in his hand. "As a gesture of goodwill, we've brought technological gifts. This is a portable matter converter. It can transform raw materials into simple tools or components with minimal energy consumption." He activated the device, which hummed softly. A small pile of mineral ore on the table transformed into a perfectly formed metal cup before everyone's eyes. The demonstration provoked gasps of amazement. "This is impossible," said a Quartz Collective scientist. "The energy requirements for molecular rearrangement would be enormous." Martinez smiled. "We've found ways to make the process more efficient." The implications were clear. Human technology was far more advanced than the Confederation had imagined. This increased both interest and concern among the gathered representatives. As the reception continued, Krelksa noticed Vexthor speaking intensely with several other Zorathi in a corner. Their body language suggested anger or fear. Occasionally, they would glance at the humans with expressions that made Krelksa uneasy. "Your commander Vexthor seems troubled by our presence," Olivia Russell said quietly, following Krelksa's gaze. "The Zorathi are a very traditional species," Krelksa explained. "They value stability and predictability. Your arrival represents a significant change." "Change can be difficult," Russell agreed, "but it's also inevitable." Later, as the reception was winding down, Admiral Holland made a formal announcement. "We invite a Confederation delegation to visit the Liberty Dawn tomorrow. We would be honored to show you our ship and continue our discussions in our environment." The offer was accepted, though Krelksa noticed that Admiral Tazvaran immediately began selecting security personnel to accompany the delegation. As the humans prepared to return to their ship for the night, Ambassador Winters approached Krelksa. "William Parker spoke highly of you. Would you be interested in joining tomorrow's delegation? We could use someone with your knowledge and open-mindedness." Krelksa felt a surge of excitement. "I would be honored." "Excellent. There's much more we have to share. This is just the beginning." After the humans left, the Confederation representatives gathered in smaller groups to discuss the day's events. Opinions were divided. Some saw opportunity in this new relationship. Others, like Vexthor, saw only threat. "They reveal just enough to impress us," Vexthor said to anyone who would listen. "But what are they hiding? Why have they really returned after all this time?" As Krelksa returned to her quarters, she could not help but wonder if he might be right to be cautious. The humans were everything the legends had described: adaptive, intelligent, and impossible to fully understand. Yet she couldn't wait to see what tomorrow would bring. After centuries of myth, humans had returned to known space, and nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, Krelksa joined the Confederation delegation, boarding a shuttle to the Liberty Dawn. The group included Admiral Tazvaran, High Counselor Nem, representatives from major Confederation species, and a security detail. "Commander." Vexthor had also insisted on coming, bringing 2 of his own guards. As they approached the human flagship, Krelksa pressed close to the viewport. The Liberty Dawn was unlike any vessel she had seen before. Its surface seemed to shift slightly, as if the hull itself was alive and breathing. "Remarkable design," murmured a Quartz Collective engineer beside her. "No visible weapon ports, yet I sensed tremendous power." Their shuttle docked smoothly, inside a cavernous bay. Admiral Holland and Olivia Russell waited to greet them. "Welcome aboard the Liberty Dawn," Holland said. "We're honored by your visit." "Your ship is quite impressive," Admiral Tazveran replied, his eyes scanning everything. "I'm particularly interested in your defense systems." Holland smiled. "All in good time, Admiral. Let's begin with a tour." As they moved through the ship, Krelksa noticed how everything seemed designed for maximum efficiency while remaining comfortable. The crew they passed was diverse. Humans of various appearances working alongside several non-human species the Confederation had never encountered before. "These are members of the Earth Alliance," Russell explained, noticing Krelksa's interest. "The blue-skinned ones are Aquari. The tall ones with 4 arms are Centaurans." They entered a large room filled with screens and holographic displays. "This is our observation center," Holland said. "We monitor space traffic, stellar events, and potential threats." Vex Thor stepped forward, his voice cold. "And what threats do you monitor in Confederation space?" Before Holland could answer, an alarm sounded. A crew member rushed to a console. "Admiral, we're receiving distress signals from Outpost Sigma-3 at the edge of Confederation space. They report they're under attack." The atmosphere in the room instantly changed. Admiral Tazveran moved to the console. "Show me," he demanded. A screen displayed a small Confederation outpost surrounded by strange insect-like ships. The outpost's shields were failing. "The swarm," someone whispered. Admiral Tazveran turned to his team. "We must return to the station immediately. All defense ships need to mobilize." "The nearest Confederation fleet is 3 days away," a staff member reminded him. "Sigma-3 will be destroyed by then." Admiral Holland's expression turned grave. "We can help. The Liberty Dawn can reach Sigma-3 in 6 hours. "We don't need your help," Vex Thor interjected. "This is Confederation business." "People are dying," Holland replied firmly. "We have the capability to assist. Would you refuse help out of pride?" High Counselor Nem stepped forward. "We accept your offer, Admiral Holland, but some of our delegation should remain on your ship to observe." "Agreed," Holland said. He turned to his crew. "Prepare for emergency jump. Battle stations." The ship came alive with activity. Krelksa found herself assigned to stay with Olivia Russell as the others returned to the station. Vex Thor also remained behind, insisting on monitoring the humans' actions. The Liberty Dawn moved away from the station with surprising speed. Krelksa felt a strange sensation as the ship entered what the humans called fold space, their version of faster-than-light travel. "Your ship is much faster than our vessels," she commented to Russell. "We've had time to refine our technology," Russell replied. "The Collapse War forced us to develop new ways to travel, to fight, to survive." In the command center, Holland studied tactical displays. "What do we know about the current swarm? Are they the same as those we encountered centuries ago?" "Similar but evolved," Admiral Tazveran admitted. "They attack, consume resources, and move on. No communication attempts have succeeded." Holland nodded. "We've dealt with them before. Their hive mind is both their strength and their weakness." When they arrived at Outpost Sigma-3, the situation was dire. The station's shields were failing, and dozens of swarm ships surrounded it. Smaller swarm vessels were attempting to cut through the hull. "Defensive protocols active," announced a human officer. "Targeting swarm ships." What happened next astonished Krelksa. The Liberty Dawn's hull seemed to ripple, and hundreds of small drones deployed. At the same time, energy weapons unlike anything in the Confederation arsenal fired with precision at the swarm vessels. Each hit disabled rather than destroyed its target. "You're not destroying them?" Vex Thor asked, suspicious. "Unnecessary destruction is wasteful," Holland replied. "We're disrupting their hive connection." Without it, they'll become dormant. The battle was over in minutes. The swarm ships drifted, powerless. The outpost was saved with minimal damage and no loss of life. As the Liberty Dawn's crew helped repair the outpost, Krelxa overheard a conversation between Vexithor and one of his guards. "They are more dangerous than we feared," Vexithor whispered. "Did you see how easily they neutralized the swarm? Technology like that could overwhelm our defenses just as quickly." "What should we do, Commander?" asked the guard. "Implement our contingency plan. Contact our agents on Harmonious Prime. The humans must not be allowed to integrate with the Confederation." Krelxa slipped away before they noticed her. She found Russell coordinating repair teams. "I need to speak with you privately," Krelxa said urgently. "I believe Commander Vexithor is planning something against your people." Russell's expression turned serious. "Let's find somewhere quiet." Before they could move, a communication came through from Harmonious Prime. Ambassador Winters appeared on screen, her face grim. "Admiral, we have a situation. Someone has accessed our secure archives and broadcast historical footage of human military operations throughout the station. Specifically, footage from the Collapse War." Holland's face darkened. "What kind of footage?" "The worst kind," Winters replied. "The orbital, defense of New Sydney, the Battle of Proxima Centauri, Earth's last stand." Krelxa saw the humans exchange worried glances. These events meant nothing to her, but clearly they were significant. "The footage shows only our military capability," Winters continued. "None of the context. None of the reasons we were fighting. It makes us look like monsters," Holland finished. "Exactly what someone wants the Confederation to believe." He turned to face Vexithor, who watched with a satisfied expression. "You fear what you don't understand," Holland said quietly. "But you've made a mistake. The swarm attack wasn't random, was it? Somehow you lured them to that outpost, thinking we wouldn't respond." Vexithor's scales darkened with anger. "I don't know what you mean." "I think you do," Holland replied. "You wanted to test our capabilities or distract us, but you've awakened something far more dangerous than humans." A junior officer rushed in. "Admiral, we're receiving reports of swarm attacks on 3 more outposts. They're moving in a direct path toward Harmonious Prime." Horror spread across Admiral Tazaveran's face. "That's impossible. The swarm has never coordinated attacks like this before." Holland's expression was grim. "They do when something is controlling them, or someone." He looked directly at Vexithor. "What have you done?" Chaos erupted on the Liberty Dawn's command center. Reports flooded in about multiple swarm attacks across Confederation space. Each attack followed a clear pattern, creating a path straight to Harmonious Prime. "This is your doing," Admiral Tazveran growled at Vexithor. "Explain yourself!" Vexithor's scales flashed with defiance. "I did what was necessary to protect the Confederation. I accessed old Zorathi technology, devices left from before your precious Confederation existed, devices that can influence the swarm's hive mind." "You fool," Holland said quietly. "That technology was abandoned for a reason. The swarm cannot be controlled for long. That's why we helped seal them away centuries ago." Krelxa's mind raced. The legends of the Great Barrier. That was humans. You can find the swarm beyond the void expanse. "Yes," Russell confirmed. "It was our final act before retreating to rebuild our civilization. We thought the knowledge of the swarm control technology had been destroyed." "The Zorathi kept it," Vexithor said proudly. "We understood its value." "But not its danger," Holland replied. "By activating it, you've awakened the swarm fully. They'll follow the signal back to its source, Harmonious Prime." The implications hit everyone at once. Harmonious Prime housed thousands of diplomats and civilians from across the galaxy. If the swarm reached it, Admiral Holland turned to his crew. "Signal all Earth Alliance vessels. Emergency Protocol Omega. We need every ship at Harmonious Prime now." "What are you doing?" demanded Admiral Tazveran. "Saving your people," Holland answered. The Confederation fleet is too scattered to respond in time. Our ships are the only chance Harmonious Prime has. Vexithor laughed bitterly. And now you play the heroes. Just as I warned, you orchestrated this crisis to make yourselves indispensable. Take him to the brig, Holland ordered, and 2 security officers escorted the protesting Vexithor away. The Liberty Dawn raced back to Harmonious Prime, arriving just as the first wave of swarm ships appeared. The station's defenses were already active, but everyone knew they wouldn't be enough. All Alliance ships defensive formation, Holland commanded. Deploy the Mindweaver. A smaller vessel separated from the Liberty Dawn's hull. It moved to the center of the human fleet formation. What is that? Krelksa asked Russell. Our most closely guarded technology, Russell replied. It was developed during the final days of the Collapse War. It can disrupt the swarm's collective consciousness, not just temporarily like our standard weapons, but permanently. On the main viewer, they watched as the human fleet engaged the swarm. The Confederation ships joined them, but it was clear the humans' technology was far more effective. The swarm ships outnumbered them all, but the human vessels moved with uncanny coordination, adapting to each new swarm tactic before it fully developed. They fight like they can predict the swarm's movements, Admiral Tazavaran observed with awe. We understand them better than most, Holland said. We've faced them before. Despite the humans' effectiveness, the swarm's numbers seemed endless. For every ship they disabled, 3 more took its place. Harmonious Prime's shields began to fail under the constant assault. We need to activate the Mindweaver now, a human officer urged. Holland nodded grimly. Mindweaver activation sequence initiated. All Alliance ships, pull back to safe distance. The small vessel at the center of the formation began to glow. With blue energy, waves of light pulsed outward, washing over the swarm ships. One by one, they began to drift aimlessly. It's working, Krelksa whispered. Just then, a group of swarm ships broke through the defensive line, heading straight for the Mindweaver. They've adapted, shouted a tactical officer. They're targeting the Mindweaver. Intercept course, Holland ordered. The Liberty Dawn moved to protect the smaller vessel, taking multiple hits in the process. The ship shuddered violently. Hull breach on decks 5 through 8, reported an officer. Shields failing. On screen, other human ships moved to form a protective barrier around the Mindweaver. One by one, they took devastating hits, sacrificing themselves to keep the Mindweaver safe. Krelksa watched in amazement. They're giving their lives. To protect everyone, Russell finished. That's what we do. The Mindweaver's glow intensified until it was painful to look at. Then, with a final pulse of energy, it released a wave that expanded outward at incredible speed, washing over every swarm ship in the sector. Silence fell on the command center as they watched. One by one, every swarm ship went dark, their lights fading, their movements ceasing. It's done, Holland said quietly. The swarm's hive mind has been severed. They're no longer a collective. The cost had been high. 4 human ships destroyed, 3 more severely damaged. The Liberty Dawn itself had suffered significant damage, but Harmonious Prime was safe, and the swarm threat neutralized. In the days that followed, the full story emerged. Vexithor had indeed activated ancient Zorathi technology in an attempt to control the swarm. He had planned to direct them to attack human ships, then position the Zorathi as saviors. But the control device had malfunctioned, and the swarm had broken free, following the signal back to its origin. In the grand meeting hall of Harmonious Prime, a formal ceremony took place. Representatives from every Confederation species gathered to honor those who had fallen in the battle and to witness a historic moment. High Counselor Nem stood before the assembly. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history. The actions of the Earth Alliance have proven that humans are not the monsters of legend, but allies worthy of our trust and respect. Admiral Holland and Ambassador Winters stood side by side as the High Counselor continued. Therefore, I propose a formal treaty between the Galactic Confederation and the Earth Alliance. not as separate entities but as equal partners in ensuring peace throughout known space. The assembly erupted in cheers and applause. Not unanimous, some species remained wary, but the overwhelming sentiment was positive. Later, Krelxa found Olivia Russell at a viewport, looking out at the stars. "What happens now?" Krelxa asked. Russell smiled. "Now the real work begins. Cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, establishing trade routes. All the boring but essential parts of building a lasting peace. And what about you? Will you return to Earth?" "Actually," Russell said, "we're establishing a permanent embassy here. Ambassador Winters has asked if I would serve as liaison officer. I'll need someone who understands both sides to work with." Krelx's heart lifted. "I might know someone suitable." "I was hoping you'd say that," Russell laughed. "Partners?" "Partners," Krelxa agreed. As they looked out at the stars, human and Confederation ships moved together in the darkness, no longer separate fleets but comrades in a shared future. The legends of humanity had been just that, legends, exaggerated by time and fear. The reality was both more ordinary and more extraordinary. Humans were not gods or monsters. They were people, complicated, unpredictable, sometimes frightening, but also capable of tremendous sacrifice and compassion. And now they were back among the stars where they belonged.